Welcome back to the fifth episode of the Five Tool Talk. Today we're going to be continuing with our recent series of player rankings. Today we're going to be looking at starting pitchers, but before we get into that, we're going to get into the recent controversy around the league. Dylan, you want to start us off?
Shohei Ohtani's personal interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara, was fired from the Dodgers on Wednesday. He allegedly stole over $4.5 million from Shohei to cover his gambling debts. Now, two variations of the stories came out. The first came from Mizuhara on Tuesday, which apparently he said Shohei wired the money to the whoever Ippei is gambling with to cover his debts, doing his friend a favor. However, Shohei's attorneys are claiming that Ippei stole the money, somehow got access to Shohei's bank account, stole the money, and then used it to cover his gambling debts. Now, Ippei obviously was fired. There's a lot we don't know about the story. Some of you are saying maybe Shohei was the one gambling and Ippei's the fall guy. However, in light of this gambling story, lots of information has come out about Ippei Mizuhara. Okay, now everyone thought this guy graduated from UC Riverside. That said all over like the Angels programs, all that. Like his bibliography on the Angels website when he was there, and I think on the Dodgers now. UC Riverside says they've never had anyone named him. Like he haven't been there, haven't graduated from there. So what? And then also he apparently was Okajima's interpreter during his stint with the Red Sox and in spring training for the Yankees. However, Okajima didn't play for the Yankees in spring 2012 because he failed a physical, and the Red Sox came out saying that Mizuhara has never worked for them at all. So now there's so many holes in the story, we just don't know. It's just actually crazy that this controversy happened. Now, this could be big. MLB initially didn't start an investigation against Shohei, but on Friday they launched their investigation on him and Mizuhara to find out what really happened. And also, the man that Ippei is gambling with, Matt Boyer, is under federal investigation currently. This is just a crazy storyline and not a good way to start Shohei's career with the Dodgers. Now, past teammates have said that Shohei has no interest in gambling, or not gambling, in other sports at all. So I'm not really sure he was gambling, but even being connected to this gambling act could cause for suspension. But who knows the truth? We'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, the MLB doesn't know if they're going to suspend Shohei at all, and they're just going to do their due diligence and find out what happens.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard, it's not really like Shohei's not worried about getting suspended from the MLB. Like the MLB's like Shohei's the MLB's golden boy. Like
Hmm.
you might get like a year or something, or maybe less, but nothing like he's not going to get the Pete Rose
And that's
treatment.
if they find anything on him.
Yeah, and that's if something happens. What he should be what he's like more worried about is the state of California because the state of California gambling's like illegal, so he can get in serious like federal trouble from places outside of the MLB and professional sports that could impact his playing career more than I think the MLB would.
Yeah.
Another thing I found interesting is how Mizuhara was able to lie through his pretty much entire career, like stating that he went to Riverside and then worked at the Red Sox and even the Yankees. Like you think someone would have caught it by now or like a couple years ago until this whole thing sparked up, but he's been able to make a whole career out of it because he lied on his resume, which in the first place shouldn't even get you a job, but the fact he's been able to hold a job this long with a false resume is just insane, especially in one of the most profound sports leagues in the world.
Yeah, I think his like the fact that all these lies are coming out also puts a hole in his claim of what happened with the story that Shohei paid for Mizuhara's debts. Like, if he's lied about all this, would he lie about that? Like, probably. Yeah, like, you know. But if he did lie about that, how did he get access to Shohei's bank accounts, which is kind of even crazier? Like, yeah,
I
that's
don't
probably
think he
Shohei's best friend,
found
but still,
access.
it's just
Like, if anything,
weird.
Shohei would have given him access for some reason. Like, I don't think he would have just hacked into his accounts or anything.
It's just such a weird thing. Because $4.5 million. I mean, it's a lot of money. He's gonna notice that goes missing, and obviously they did, or who knows? We're gonna have to wait this story out and see what really happened.
What I find funny is Shohei's supposed to address the media tomorrow um about the whole
Who's gonna
situation and
translate for him?
he's just gonna translate for him. But also like he knows English. He's good at English, so like maybe he'll just speak for himself. But like, I just found it funny that it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go address the media tomorrow, and he doesn't have a
Without a
translator.
translator.
I'm his
Yeah.
translator, guys.
And the guy who doesn't live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I'll fly. I'm getting flown out personally by Shohei. It's my dog.
How much Japanese you know?
Arigato.
Yeah, there it is.
I was gonna say something else. I'm not gonna say that. Let's keep it going, bro. Let's keep it going. Uh, next topic I want to talk. This is what I want to talk about. Jackson Holiday. He was sent down to AAA. He's no has no more. He's not gonna make the Orioles opening day roster. Despite having a great season, the 20-year-old was not selected. Kind of crazy. I feel like he played really good. He had a 311 batting average with a 600 slugging and a 954 OPS. Now, if the Orioles send him down to the minors for like 2 or 3 weeks starting the season, and they call him up, they get another year of control time on his contract, which is big. Like, that's one more year you're not going to have to give him that big payday or risk losing him to free agency. So, well, I believe it was the GM came out saying that they sent him down mainly because he doesn't have as much time at second base. He's not that good against lefties, and he didn't have great. He have a great strikeout to walk ratio, which are true facts. However, I think another big thing that they didn't want to mention, because obviously, like service manipulation is a big thing. I mean, I think it's a big part of it. Like those facts are true that the GM said, but I think those are only half the reasons they didn't do it. I mean, let's see. We can go through his stats. He had 15 Ks to 3 walks and 48 at bats during spring training. He had a 954 OPS usually, but he only had a 776 OPS against the lefties. And while he does lack experience at second base, he didn't make a single error there this spring training. I mean, he had a great outing during the spring. I think he definitely outplayed Westward, who's their starting second baseman. So I'm not gonna be surprised at all when he gets called up in 3 or 4 weeks or 2 weeks even. And then they get him for another year.
Yeah, it's interesting just because there's so much hype around the guy, and like
Yeah,
everyone
I mean he's only
knows he's
20
this.
still.
Yeah, like everyone knows he's this big time player, and that he's gonna be so good. But then you send him down after he was seemingly extremely good in spring and went through the farm system extremely fast last year. It's just it's weird to me. Like I understand the team control thing, but it's like for the first 2 weeks of the season, wouldn't you want to win some games? Like for
Well, you
it's
also think,
people
would you
say
rather
like the
win
first
2
2 weeks are
weeks of
important.
games or have him for another year in 2030 instead of losing him after 2029? Like that's like the thing about that long game.
I feel like more than likely he would still resign with them anyways. Like
I
unless he
mean,
like
maybe, but
plays
like
terribly or something along that. Like, but I
it's
don't
not a
see
thing if
him
they
really
think
going
they'll
anywhere
resign.
else.
It's one more year that they don't have to pay him because they also have a lot of young guys who are going to be needing big contracts around that same time. I mean, Rushman's going to need a contract a year or two before him. Henderson, and now him, obviously. So it's like those are if all these guys who already look, I mean, Henderson and Rushman are doing good in the bigs, obviously, and then now you have to pay Holiday's probably going to do good. I mean, he's not more prospect in baseball. If he pans out like they want, that's going to be 3 huge contracts you have to pay within like a year of each other, a couple years of each other. So if you get one more extra year of control time, that makes sense. That's another year you
Yeah.
have to not to like pay a guy, and then fill out other spots in your roster and make that World Series run.
So our next thing is our top 10 starting pitcher rankings for the 2024 season. Coming in at the number 10 spot, we got Pablo Lopez, the Minnesota Twins starting pitcher. Last year he gave us a 3.81 ERA, got up there 190 something innings pitched. Last year did the same thing, 180 innings pitched, 3.6 ERA. Like he's a guy that's going to get you deep into ball games, give you good ERA, not going to allow a lot of runs. He's going to strike out a fair amount of guys. 192 strikeouts, that's pretty high up there. He strikes out 192 guys, even though he's not a guy with big fastball velo or a big change in velo in between his pitches. He only runs it up to like 94 at the max, 95 at the max. He's got like a 90-mile-an-hour changeup, an 85-mile-an-hour slider. Everything's from about the 90-mile-an-hour range or 85-mile-an-hour range to the 95-mile-an-hour range. That's only a 10-mile-an-hour difference. That's not a huge difference. But what he does give you is elite movement on his pitches. His fastball run is elite. It's in the 90th percentile. His breaking ball run on average is in the 80th percentile. That's elite. So what he's going to give you is just absolute gross stuff. Even though he's not going to blow anything by you, he's still going to be an elite guy within the zone. The reason we have him at the 10 spot is because the Twins, they're not going to be that competitive of a team this year. And really, he's not a true ace. He's not a guy that's just going to absolutely dominate the other team for 8, 7, 8, 9 innings. He's a guy that is going to get you deep into games, but not necessarily give you like a Blake Snell or Logan Webb or other type of guy performance.
Jumping ahead of him, we have Kevin Gausman. So Gosman, people will probably say this might be a little low for Kevin Gosman, but he's getting up there in age, and he's also looking to miss his opening day start this season, so he's not going to be the day one pitcher for the Blue Jays this year, unfortunately. They are hoping that he can possibly start for them in their fourth or fifth game this year, but last season had one of the better career years that he's had with a 3.16 ERA, second in the MLB with strikeouts with 237 and a 1.18 WHIP to go along with 185 innings pitched. Gosman's been one of the most consistent pitchers for the last 3-4 years ever since he started his career with the Giants. He's been one of the top pitchers, been in Cy Young contendency every year. He's got one of the most nasty pitches in baseball with his splitter. Like that thing's just, it's so hard to hit, just drops below the zone out of nowhere. But it's with him being older as he is, we could see a slight regression. He's still going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball, but just being 33, it's not like he's reaching the end of his prime. Give him 1 or 2 years with his prime left. But I think that after this season or maybe next season, especially if his injuries can like start ramping up as he is right now, it could become an issue and could see him leaning out of that top 10.
The number 8 spot, we have Luis Castillo, the ace for the Seattle Mariners. Last season, he had a 3.34 ERA, and the year before that, in 2022, he had 2.99. He's a high velo guy who has a great changeup to go along with it, and he's a high strikeout to innings pitched. He had over 219 strikeouts and 197 innings pitched. So he's getting more than a strikeout per inning. So, I mean, he's just high production, and he's just a great pitcher.
Luis Castillo is a breakout favorite for this year. I mean, he's already broken out, but like,
Broken out. I don't know. He's 31.
I know that's what I'm saying. He's already broken out, but a lot of people are saying like they're expecting big things from him
I
this
could
season.
see him in Cy Young contingency this season.
Yeah,
I mean, I could. He finished 5th last year. I mean, the only thing is compared to 2022, which I'd say was probably his best season, he had a lot higher ERA by about 35 points. So who knows? But I mean, maybe he's got a great fastball and a great changeup. So just a dominant pitcher.
moving on to a guy that finished third in NL Cy Young voting, Zach Gallen. Gave you 17 wins and 9 losses last year. That was good for second in the National League. 3.47 ERA, 220 Ks, 1.12 WHIP. He's a guy that he's going to strike out guys. He's going to get you deep into ball games and really give you everything you want from a starting pitcher. Now, he's on the Diamondbacks where it's like they have a solid rotation, but they're still could possibly finish second or third in the NL West. So it's one of those
Possibly.
spots where it's like he's gonna be an elite
Probably.
guy, but don't know how their season's gonna go. I mean, I see him being up in contention for Cy Young Award winner again. I mean, there's so many good pitchers in the National League. Like we'll see where he ends up. Um, yeah, I mean he's 28 years old, still in the prime of his career. I see you giving him another good season.
And just now getting into his prime, arguably, for pitchers. So could be Cy Young contender for the next 2, 3, 4 years going forward. and just showed his stuff last season, really broke out last year as one of the better pitchers in the league, and proved as to why he should be the number one pitcher in Arizona. But speaking of Cy Young in the National League, last year's Cy Young winner, Blake Snell. Obviously, some might say, again, a little low for Blake Snell, but the main thing is he is, again, also getting a little bit up there in age, and we're not, like, his walks, yes, they're an issue, but last season the Padres had one of the worst catching staff in the league when it comes to defensive run saves. And now you're upgrading to a guy in Patrick Bailey, who was one of the best defensive catchers in the league last season, who some could argue should have won the National League Gold Glove. I wouldn't say he should have, but he definitely was up there. So when you go from a terrible catching rotation to one of the best catchers defensively in the league, you're gonna lower your amount of walks by I would say maybe in the 10 to 15 range. And while yeah, he put up what was it 234 strikeouts last season, I don't think he goes higher than that, but I could see him sitting around the 200s, having one of the best strikeouts in the league. So just list off his stats again from his second Cy Young in his career. He had 2.25 ERA and was third in the league with the 234 strikeouts that I listed. So we all know two Cy Young winner, and one with the Rays, one with the Padres last season. But other than that, he's never really been too crazy. Like the two seasons he's gone over 130 innings pitched, he's won the Cy Young. So if he can get over that number, he's a very high contender for the Cy Young. But that's if he gets into high pitch counts early in the games because of his walks and ball control issues. But it's if he can stay in the 150 or more range like he did last season where he hit 180, he could be one of the better pitchers in baseball, even though he already is right now. He could move up into that maybe 3-4 slot, but he has to stay consistent and he has to get the strikeouts and lower the walks.
I think the biggest factor is going back to catching. Like last year, his basically his personal catcher was Gary Sanchez, who's like a notoriously like not a good defensive catcher. Like he's gotten a lot better, but he's still not like
He's
Patrick
not
Bailey,
great.
Adley Rutschman, like those guys. So now he massively upgrades to one of the best in the league in Patrick Bailey. And now he's playing in a cavern of a ballpark in San Francisco. So I think he can only, like, in those two senses, he got a lot better. So we got to see how, the walks play, how his stuff plays in a chillier San Francisco than San Diego. We got to see, like, how he is age wise. We got to see just how he plays as he gets older.
Yeah. Going under our number 5 slot, another pitcher for the Giants who finished second in Cy Young voting, Logan Webb. This guy is like the complete opposite pitcher of Blake Snell. He's a big inning eater. He's going to get you like 8 or 9 innings pretty much every outing. He's a slow starter, though, in the season. He's probably going to pick it up slow. He didn't have a great spring training, but by like May-ish, I could see him, at his form, his usual form, and picking up where he was off last season. He's just been a dominant pitcher for the Giants, and one of the few bright spots in that, like the only bright spot in that rotation last year. So yeah, I think, and also he's only 27 still, which is why we have him above Blake Snell, who was the Cy Young winner. And yeah, he only had a 3.25 ERA, 194 strikeouts, and yeah, he's just a dominant pitcher for that Giants rotation. He made a
I think
great
this
1-2 punch
season,
there.
I think this season we could see a bigger jump in his strikeouts compared to the last two seasons. Like he's a big ground ball guy, and I think with having the defense that he now has behind him with Chapman at third, shortstop's a little iffy there, but he's got Tyro, who was one of the better defensive, who was I think the second highest rated second baseman last season from defensive runs saved. So with that, I think we could see him pitch a little bit more aggressively this year and try and pitch for the strikeouts instead of solely pitching for the ground balls. So if we see that, I could see his strikeouts per nine jumping up maybe at one or two compared to what I think it was maybe 10, 9 last season. I could see it maybe hitting 11 or 12. So if he's able to do that, he could propel himself into a possible Cy Young. The main thing is how is he going to start the season? Every single year, super slow starts. This season in spring training, obviously, spring training is not the biggest thing for ace starting pitchers just because they limit the numbers. But a ERA higher than a 10 in starting in spring training is not the most ideal thing. So if like slow start to the season could really hinder his season, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Definitely. I think we move it on to number 4. Spencer Strider. Super young guy in the Atlanta Braves rotation. I mean, last year I think he led the MLB in strikeouts, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he hit
3.37
two.
ERA.
It wasn't even close. It was like 50 over the next closest person.
Yeah, like he strikes everybody out. Super dominant. And last year he was a three pitch mix guy. He was a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, a slider, and a changeup guy. And from what I've heard around the league, this year he's added a curveball. He's added that other secondary breaker, which really that allows for a lot of depth in his pitch because before it was like fastball flat, sliders just a lot of left to right, and then changeup another a lot of left to right. I don't think he had a vertical changeup. I think he had more of a tailing changeup. So I think adding that curveball, like people are going to see spin, they're going to be like, oh, Spencer Strider, elite wipeout slider, and then it's just going to fall off the table and drop below the bat, getting a lot of swing and miss. I mean, he's still super young. He's 25 years old. He can only get better from last year. I mean, having him at 4 on this list, a lot of people are going to question that. He could easily win the NL Cy Young, no question.
I
Yeah.
think if he is able to strike out as many as he does and get the ERA numbers down and see that elite curveball, it most likely could propel him into the NL Cy Young and into the top 2 pitchers for the MLB this season. But it really just depends on how that curveball ends up working out. Just ahead of him, um, probably the third time that people might say, but instead of too low, too high. Zach Wheeler. If we're purely going off of last season and the regular season, his stats weren't that great. One of the worst seasons of his career in terms of ERA with a 3.61. He still had 212 strikeouts, a 1.08 WHIP, which is insane to go along with 192 innings. So he's a guy that'll get you super deep into ball games. Last season he wasn't great in the ERA standpoint, but I mean that's not the biggest of things. That he's still on the team for a couple more years. But last season, in the postseason, we saw really who Zach Wheeler is as a pitcher and what he can be. Last season, he had an absolutely dominant postseason with 19 innings pitched and a 2.37 ERA to go along with a 26 to 1 strikeout to walk ratio, which is one of the most astronomical stat lines I've ever seen in a starting pitcher. If you're striking out 26 guys for every one person you're walking, like it's almost unheard of in today's game with the amount of walks that happen. And I think if he's able to bring down that ERA, he could, again, propel himself into the National League Cy Young. The NL starters are insanely stacked this season, and I think it's going to be a dogfight to see who wins the Cy Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. I mean, the reason we have him so high is we watched him pitch in the playoffs, just straight up. Nobody could touch him. He was untouchable in the playoffs. No one could touch him. I think he's going to bounce back from his year last year. And really, it's like, oh yeah, he had a career bad year, 3.6 ERA. Oh, so bad. Still like a 3.6 ERA. That's like, wow, 3.6 and 26 to 1. Can't argue with it.
Yeah. No way. Going into our number 2 spot, I definitely didn't want to say 3. We have Corbin Burns. Now, this is a guy who's, ever since the COVID season, where he finished 6th in Cy Young, and then obviously 2021, he won the Cy Young. He's just been an elite pitcher for the Brewers, and now he's on the Orioles. He's a great defensive catcher with Adley behind the plate. Last season, he had a down year by his standards, but it was only he had a 3.4 ERA and still had 200 strikeouts. So like, while it was a down year for him, it was like that's like still a phenomenal season. It's also like a contract year, and I think he's going to try. I think with a the better defensive catcher with Adley, and now like a contract year. I think he's gonna have like a season like he had in 21 maybe. Just trying to like get that big money that he deserves, right? He's been one of the best pitchers since 2021, and as a three-time All-Star already. You know, He's an elite pitcher with great stuff.
That trade definitely helps out that weak Orioles rotation. And as you said, Adley Rutschman being the best defensive catcher in baseball, the best catcher in baseball, regardless of the defense. But having him behind the plate, he's going to be able to pitch as aggressively as he wants, and he's going to be able to throw stuff in the dirt outside of the zone. And Adley can even, like, if it's slightly outside of the zone, Adley is such a good framer. He can bring it into the zone and get even more strikeouts. Burns is already a big strikeout
Yeah, I
guy,
think his strikeouts are going to
and
shoot up. Compared to
getting after them.
21 and 22, he had 234 and 21, 243 and 22. I think we could definitely see go back up another 20 compared to what he had with only 200 this year. Oh my. I don't know, it's not an insane amount of strikeouts, but still, it's just, like you said, like he's going to be more aggressive with it.
I think it's time. We reveal the number one starting pitcher.
I
Many would
wonder.
say, many would say he should be medically disqualified for this season, but it's Garrett Cole. When Garrett Cole's healthy, nobody can touch Garrett Cole. Unanimous Cy Young last year. I mean, he's going to be back in June. He's going to give you another Cy Young level season or starts, however you want to call it, for the time that he's back. I mean, he's had one season with above a 4 ERA, and it was in 2017 when he was also like just not like partially injured and with Pittsburgh. So, I mean, he's a guy that he's above league average in every single one of his pitches. I mean, his fastball runs it up near 98 miles an hour. I mean, when he's healthy, nobody can touch him. He's got a career average of a 3.1 ERA. I think being hurt, it really does hurt his chances at like being that number one pitcher for the season. But I think what like we're looking at is like when Garrett Cole's healthy, he's untouchable. There's like he's near Jacob DeGrom level of when Jacob DeGrom is healthy. It's like everyone's like Jacob DeGoat. Like nobody can touch Jacob DeGrom. The one guy like one step below him is Garrett Cole.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
he's just elite stuff that he's proven year in, year out that he has what it takes to win every game that he starts. Like, it's ridiculous how much he's able to go into games and go deep into games and limit the runs scored and get good strikeout numbers every year. Because he won. Did he win the Cy Young with the Pirates? I don't. Did he?
No.
No, he
I
did
think
I
not.
he's
don't
only
think he
has
did.
one
He
Cy Young one.
was.
That was
He
last
only has
year.
one Cy
Oh
Young,
yeah,
and it was last
that's
year.
right. Yeah, he was snubbed so many times. But
I mean, yeah,
like
just
ever since
he's
his
been
like
some great.
second or third year with the Pirates, he's been absolutely insane to the point of where he has been arguably the best pitcher in baseball every single season that he's pitched a full season.
The Grom. But yeah, definitely. I mean, he is like the bar when it comes to pitchers. He's that guy at the top. To Jacob DeGrom's healthy, but that's like once in a blue moon.
Yeah. And for people wondering where he is, we have him medically disqualified for the season. Because I
He's on the
mean,
60 day IL. He's not going to be here
yeah.
until end of the season, if at
Yeah,
all.
When healthy
probably gonna
though,
like re-injure himself like right before he's about to come back.
Tommy
yeah.
John, 3 weeks after he starts.
He's gonna like trip and fall and
Crazy
break his
stuff.
leg.
So
Falls
sad.
down the stairs.
Such an elite pitcher,
Falls
just
into a
cannot
coma.
stay on the field.
Yep.
Loses his arm in a wood chipper accident.
Alright, bro.
Pulls in a Dominican Sue, loses 3 fingers at the fireworks.
That'd be
Bro,
crazy.
that's wild. That's
If I'm a
nuts.
pitcher, I'm keeping my hand anywhere. I'm keeping my hand as far away from fireworks as I can, bro.
For real.
After like if you're, it's only after hearing about Dominican Sue, bro.
Alright, well,
3 fingers.
I think that
All you
brings us to
need.
the end of our episode. Thank you for watching. Go follow us on at the number 5 Tool Talk on all socials. You can
The.
watch this
But
podcast on YouTube, Spotify. We're shortly going to be coming to Apple Podcasts eventually. Um,
we also have a
and yeah,
website
stay
where you can
tuned. Thank you
find
for
our
watching.
podcast as well.
Yeah, and the website where you can watch our recent developments, see what's happening.
The5tooltalk.com.
Yeah, that. All right, we'll see you guys.